And that separation follows us into our homes, dividing parents and children. We need the cube in order to get over this. This show encourages us to listen to other perspectives. It allows teens to connect with us by seeing that they are not alone. And finally, it helps parents bridge the gap between them and their child by giving them insight into our world. None of this would be possible without your support. So please, help us show our sides of the cube. Become a sponsor or advertiser today. Thank you.
You can support theCUBE by purchasing commercial spots during our show, become an individual sponsor, or even be a season title sponsor. You can make a big difference in the lives of our teens. Email advertising at ktsmaz.com or call 602-699-6271. Thank you. Welcome back to theCUBE, right here on ktsmaz.com. You may notice over the broadcast today that there are a few folks missing. Kylie is missing, Reese is missing, and my sidekick Tristan will not be in this episode today. There's something going around. Thank goodness it's not COVID, but they won't be here with us. We wish them a speedy return. Anyway, today we're going to dig into discrimination and inequality. And we have our panel here ready to go. So what does inequality and discrimination mean to you?
Well, I think that discrimination and inequality are two sort of different things. I think that discrimination is being against a person or a group of people based off of prejudice and negativity that you have in your mind towards them. So it's just treating them in a negative manner. And then inequality is sort of like when you have two groups of people and one is above the other, or two different people even. It's just they're not at the equal level.
Anybody else want to add to that?
No, that's
okay. I have a couple explanations here. Discrimination means treating a person unfairly because of who they are or because they possess certain characteristics. If you have been treated differently from other people only because of who you are or because you possess certain characteristics, you may have been discriminated against. And so let's talk about that. There's many ways for discrimination. It's not necessarily the color of your skin. It could be, can you give me some examples of where you may have seen discrimination at school, at home, around?
I actually have a personal story. I was at the mall one day and shopping with friends, and we all had our bags and we were about ready to leave. And a security guard came up and stopped us. And he said to me, only me, he was like, "Oh, I need to check your bag. We think that you stole something." And I was like, okay, I didn't. But I showed him my bag respectfully and I showed him my receipt. He checked my bag. He saw everything was there that I had bought. I didn't steal anything. But I happened to be with two people who were not the same ethnicity as me. And he didn't say anything to them, only to me. And then he was like, "Okay, you guys can go." And I was like, "What about them? Aren't you going to check their bags too?" And he was like, "Nope," and just walked away. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was definitely a moment that I was like, oh, this is discrimination because clearly they're different than I am. And I guess in his mind, I was a threat or something. Just.
Had you ever experienced anything like that before?
Nope, that was the first time.
Have you experienced anything like that since?
No, actually.
Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
go ahead.
We see things like that all the time on the news. Like, it's devastating. But the amount of times I've heard stories like that just in our world.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Well, I was kind of on like the other side of like, well, I don't really know how to explain this, like word this the right way, but like, I just remember like something that really impacted me, like a story that I heard about discrimination was actually, there was a black woman in the car and one of her headlights was out on the highway. and a police officer stopped her and ended up shooting her in front of her 4-year-old daughter in the car, just because her headlight was out, because she was reaching into her glove compartment to get out like her like files and stuff. And when I heard that story, it really resonated with me, because my mom's window or like headlight was also out, and like as a white family in a little minivan, like we had never been pulled over at all, and then some lady lost her life just reaching into her glove department. I don't know, that just was something that really like stuck with me.
I hear it a lot from like family members or just people's like ideas of my dad, because he's Iranian and he's also Muslim. So sometimes when I go to like Persian events, I kind of feel like people view me different. Like it can even be something simple that they don't do with like an intention, but like they'll say hello in Farsi, like salam, but then when they see me, they'll be like, oh, hello. And it makes me feel a little like different, even though I'm not. But I know that it's not always done out of being hateful, but I kind of experience it a lot with like my family and other people. Or even if you think about the Muslims you see in like television and stuff, a lot of people go in with the mindset that like they're terrorists. So, which is not true at all, especially my dad. So I think it's kind of everywhere with everyone, and everyone has different stories of it, whether it's with their race or ethnicity or ageism or being discriminated for your gender or anything like that. So,
and I kind of like what you said about how it's like, obviously like it's in the media, which is something very big, and it can be portrayed right up front, but it can also be subconscious.
Yes.
Like they probably didn't mean any harm, but just by them assuming a certain idea of what you are is interesting.
Yeah, and along with ageism, we also like the gender inequality. Like our new vice president is the first woman vice president, and I think that like the first vice president, it's been a while. Yeah. So that's really cool too.
What Mitra said really resonated with me in terms of people treating you different for a little thing. My mom, she has a physical disability. She uses a walker. So I notice sometimes when we, go grocery shopping, or we go somewhere in public, people always kind of treat us differently. Whereas even if we go grocery shopping and she uses a grocery cart versus using her walker, people treat her differently. Because if she uses the grocery cart and she's walking slow, people will like pass around her and be kind of rude about it. But if she's walking with her walker, people know that she has a physical disability and are much more patient with her in public, which I find really interesting. But no, I see that just little subtle things that people, the way they speak or the way that they act for things like that. But that's disability discrimination, I guess.
I have one sort of with the age portion of that. I went with my mom and my grandma today to get my grandma's her COVID shot, her second dose. And the first time I went with just my mom to get her first and second one. And I noticed today in the car that how they treated my grandma was so much like different. It's not that they were mean to my mom or anything, but they were just like more like, okay, do this, do that, do like just real quick, get it done with. But with my grandma, they're like, okay, so this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it just like this. And then after they keep you there for like 15 minutes. And my mom, we just sat in her car, just talked to ourselves. But this guy came up to my grandma's window and he was like, oh, we're just checking on you. Are you doing okay? How are you doing? And I was like, okay, yeah, it's an age thing, but also like, why can't everyone be so nice like that?
Yeah.
So on that, but they were treating her kindly.
Yes.
Okay.
I think,
But you felt there was a different, they treated your mother a little bit differently.
Yeah, big difference.
But different person too. So sometimes people are nice and have good customer service skills, and then sometimes they don't. Yeah, that's true. And then back to your question, why do you think that they look at your mother differently when she's
Well, I think when people are aware that someone has a disability, because if she has a walker and is using a walker, people know that she has a disability. Whereas if she's just using the grocery cart, they don't know that she can't physically move as fast as other people.
Should that matter?
No, but but people then become aware of it, and I think that they're more conscious about it. And I think that, I don't know, people have a tendency to be kinder towards people if they're aware that they have a disability. Am I making sense with
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it relates to when people see that someone is colored and someone is not. That's when they discriminate towards them.
I think
You mean-
that everyone should just be nice to everyone because in the end of the day, we're all human.
Yes.
But kind of
True.
interestingly enough, with all of the things that you guys have been saying, I've been noticing it's been a lot of visual stuff. They saw that your grandma was elderly. They saw the color of that person's skin. They saw, like with your dad, or I mean, anybody who might be wearing a religious garment per se, they will see that and then they choose what to do from there. Or like they'll see that she has a disability.
Well, this is something that I find really interesting and I like to read a lot about. It's first impressions are everything. And we live in a world that's so based off physicality, from the way we stand to the way we dress, and just going in public. Sometimes I like to mess around with it. Like I'll wear gym shorts, or I'll dress differently, and then I'll dress really formal and go to the store. And just seeing how people treat you differently is really interesting to me, because you can get away with a lot if you not change the way, there's things you can't change about yourself, but I mean, like the way you appear in public settings. Am I making clear?
Yeah.
Which I think leads in then to discrimination to a bigger extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, like, I have a lot of friends who are of color, and I've talked to a lot of them, and I think it's not about not seeing color, because I think you have to see people for the culture and the beauty that they have, but it's how you see it.
Right.
And I think that can speak to it.
100%.
Like, I can see how you look, and I can see how you dress, and I can see how you carry yourself. And in life, we have to go off of instincts and how we see people, but it's how you see it, and if you see them and who they are. And I think that's what's important.
And what you do with that information
Yeah.
and how you choose to act based off of that.
And it's very easy for humans to categorize. We love to put
Yes.
people in boxes really quickly. So it kind of leads to a closed mindset to try and just assume how someone may be based off the way they look, which I think it just sucks. And it's something that we should just be aware of and improve on.
So stop spreading stereotypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. The stereotypes really play into a lot of discrimination and prejudice with whatever it may be, whichever group of people.
So I just wanted to read about inequality. Inequality, the quality of being unequal or uneven, such as a social disparity or distribution or opportunity or lack of evenness. So, Lachlan, earlier you mentioned that we now have the first female vice president of the United States and the first African American and Indian, let's see, she's Southeast Asian, sorry. Why do you think it's now 2021 that we finally have this? Talk about inequality.
I don't really know. I think that it has to do with how much we have evolved. I think back then, because I think it really started like with Obama, because before that, like it was a man and they were white. Like there was nothing in between. I think I guess society didn't accept it as much. Like that sounds horrible, but like it's sadly like the truth.
It's very sad. Well, we have a lot more of dialogue to talk about today, but we'll be right back after these messages on KTSMAZ.com, The Cube.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
We reached out to AC Doctors because our air had gone just warm, I guess. It wasn't cooling as we had liked. I feel like I don't have to worry that what they say is the issue or what they're going to fix is not accurate. I know that when they tell me something's wrong and they're going to fix it, that's what's wrong. They're not trying to, pull one over on me. They have really good quality work. When they come to service our units, we usually don't have an issue throughout the year. And they're very clean about what they do, and their service people are nice and friendly and kind. I feel comfortable having them in my home. I trust AC Doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
Welcome back to theCUBE here on KTSMAZ.com. Before the break, we were talking, and today we're talking about discrimination and inequality. And Lachlan had mentioned about our now having the very first female vice president in 2021, and also mentioned our very first African-American vice president, President Obama. Yeah, it's a shame that it's taken so long, but thank God we've made those strides, and hopefully it'll be more rapid, and because, why shouldn't we have a female vice president? So, but I want to ask you, when were your eyes first open to discrimination or inequality? And this is your perspective based on you, because you're the teens. I know at mine, I've been around a while, but I want to hear from you.
I'd say mine was probably within the last year with all the BML stuff that's been going on. I feel like I grew up pretty sheltered to it, if that makes sense. I didn't really see, I wasn't fully educated on the topic, so I didn't understand that there was still so much going on in our world. But I'd say that probably with all the social media posts on the BML movement and everything like that, I think that's when my eyes really started to get open to it.
So you're saying, so through social media is where you became aware of it?
Yeah, honestly, I got really educated through social media because I don't really watch the news that much because, I don't know, politics kind of stress me out, so I just don't watch it. But I'd say that a lot of the information that I do get is through social media platforms.
Okay. Anybody else?
I would say, as for racial discrimination, really throughout the last year or so, 1 to 2 years, I've been really exposed to it and gotten to really see it in a lot of different perspectives. But as for religious discrimination, as a Jewish person, I've always been sort of aware of it, especially when I started to hear about the Holocaust first or second grade. But then when we were actually taught about it and I started to learn about it and took the liberty to read books about it and things like that in 5th and 6th grade, that's when my eyes were really opened. But I think in a way they've always kind of been open. At my synagogue, we always have a police officer, and I thought that was normal. I thought it was just security. I mean, it's an institution. There are kids there sometimes. There are adults there. Why not have some extra security? But I never realized it was because of all of the attacks on synagogues and all of these different things, or the days when we would have more police officers because there had been a synagogue shooting the day prior. And we would have all of these extra police officers. And again, I thought it was just for extra safety. So I think once I really started to hear more about religious discrimination within the past years, I mean, I would say past 3 years is really when I started to have my eyes open to it.
Okay, we're going to come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Same with me. On religious wise, when I started learning about the Holocaust.
So how old were you? We're looking for when did you?
I didn't learn about the Holocaust until 8th grade.
Great. Okay.
I would say when I first, my eyes were first open, I think it was maybe 3 years ago. I would say I was 13 because I remember being in a show and I realized that I was different. But that was really when I noticed. So 13. 13.
Okay. 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Raymond?
I feel like I started to be aware of discrimination through humor that family members may have made or friends may have made. And I started to think about why is their race or why is the way that they look being attacked? And just starting to question that That's when I first started to become aware of it. Do you know what I mean? When people just
Yeah, I
make
actually know
sly
exactly what you mean. Now that you say that, that's probably like the first time I was open to it.
Because I was just like, that's just how they are. Why are you attacking that?
Yeah.
So why do you think people discriminate? Or how do they learn to discriminate?
I think it's definitely taught.
Yeah.
I think we all, even outside of this topic, pick up things from people around us, especially at a young age. People say, like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I can say that we are all a lot like our parents or who we were raised by. And if you are raised by people that have those beliefs and that system of thinking, then I think it's very easily spread. And I think it is nice to see that more, I feel, our generation who didn't experience the extreme levels of what they went through back in the day, we've learned to learn from each other and be better. But I think it's definitely taught, and that's quite sad and interesting.
And I like that you said about people our age. I feel, and we're growing up in a time where we do have a female vice president, where we did have a person of color who was the president of the United States. I don't really know a world without that. That's the only world I know. So, there is progress going on. And I can't even imagine what it was like 40 years ago, let alone 17 years ago, how old I am. So, and I feel like everyone our age is so progressive. I'm sure there are people our age who are not progressive. And I just don't know them. What was I saying? Yeah.
Well, something that you brought up, one of my friends, apparently her mom said something like kids who are born like on election day and kids born from then on, all they're ever gonna know is this, which is really, it's kind of cool. It's also kind of sad, especially with all the COVID stuff, but that's not what we're talking about. I think it's just really interesting how this is all they're ever gonna know in the very beginning, and then whatever happens.
So let's see. So President Obama was elected to the presidency in 2008?
Yeah.
2008. So how old were you in 2008?
3, 4, 1.
5. So the beautiful thing for you all is that even though we just said that those who are born on election day will know, but you were, your life, you only know that there was a African-American president and a female vice president. So that.
Well, you had asked, where does discrimination come from?
Yeah.
And I like to think, well, I think it just comes from a place of, we keep saying the word no. We only know a president of that way. It comes from a place of not knowing. It comes from a place of ignorance. It comes from a place of fear, of not being exposed to that. So I think that's where discrimination comes from. Yeah. It's passed and it's trickled down, just this not, but now that we do know, we're learning that. And
we also, when we started, discrimination isn't just racial discrimination.
Oh, no.
No, not at all.
Religious discrimination. Can we name some other forms of discrimination that you may be aware of? Or where people are treated differently. That's what discrimination is about. And unfair.
Very young. I was homeschooled since a very young age. I experienced a lot of discrimination with that, especially as I got older and thought about going to public school for high school. I experienced a lot of things that I was left out of, or people would say things like, oh, well, you don't know because you're homeschooled. And that hurt my feelings a lot. So I experienced that a lot. And also being homeschooled and graduating early and being the youngest of siblings, I experienced people discriminating or making assumptions from my age. And I experienced that in ways of people not understanding that I can have a certain belief system or a certain maturity at my age. But I also think, like we were talking about elderly people, I also think elderly people can be discriminated against their age. Oh, you don't know that, you're too old. Oh, boomer, even though that was a funny thing that kids thought of, if you think about it, if you were an older person, I think that would be hurtful. So I think it goes for all ages too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ageism is definitely one. I know I've experienced on the younger end. You're too young to understand. You shouldn't be talking about that, even though I might be more aware than the other person is. I would say discrimination based off of gender, sex. Yes. I'm a female. I do experience that, but I also think men can experience that as well, definitely, for sure. And I'm trying to think, there was another one that I was thinking of. But I also think But I think in general, discrimination can stem from any form of hatred or fear or lack of experience and exposure. And it can be against any group. Like you said, somebody who's homeschooled.
Yeah.
They can
And I
still
think
experience that.
Also, too, it's not only like a place of like hatred, but I also think it can be a form of like fear or unknown, because I think a lot of people do it not with that intention, but you always have to think about how people will take what you say. And at the end of the day, if you could twist it in any way, or not even twist it because there is some truth to like what somebody's feeling, think about what you say and how it affects people, and try to educate and learn and try to get rid of fear, because I think people have a lot of fear of the unknown in life. And I think that is where discrimination can stem from. Even if it's not purposeful, it's still being done.
One form of discrimination that I think that we honestly see a lot as teens, like now, is like kind of body shaming. I'm sure that everyone's experienced some form. Like for me, I've always been pretty small. I've been very petite my entire life. I get told all the time, they're like, Ellie, like, you're so anorexic, like, eat a burger. Like, I get told that all the time. And, like, so I guess you could say that I get skinny shamed sometimes. Like, constantly, like, my friends would look in the mirror, they'd be like, do I look fat in this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everyone in, like, some shape or form has experienced that in their everyday lives.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that everyone can relate to.
I was going to say that body discrimination. Because as a kid, I was really overweight. And I remember being just like attacked for being an overweight kid, or even, or even being, I'm really tall too. And but that's not something to, like, I don't get attacked for being tall. But people.
While you're in school, your classmates can be pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I get, like, my looks commented on at least 3 times a day by somebody. Somebody will make, like, some, like, comment about, like, anything.
Positive or negative?
Either. Every day, it's always something. Like, they'll be like, Ellie, like, your legs look really long and, like, stick, like people called me Daddy Long Legs for a period of time. It was funny. Like, I thought it was a joke, but, like, yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of funny.
Or also, like you were saying, like people like base like positive or negative comments. It can also be like a neutral comment too, which is really
there's
weird.
so many like backhanded compliments that like
Well, I
I
think
always
it's
say
also
that.
like, again, it's a perception thing. Like you can totally go in with saying like a compliment. Like I could tell Raymond, oh, you're so tall. Like, and that's a good trait in my mind. But if he's very self-aware that he's tall, it can be taken differently. So I think overall commenting about someone's looks is a touchy thing. So.
But I think like complimenting versus commenting is a big thing too. Because I know if someone compliments me on something I'm insecure about, it like, you know what I mean? That's the best feeling in the world.
We're going to have to go to a break, but this is great dialogue.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back here on theCUBE.
My name is Leanne Leonard, and I'm the Executive Director of the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank. The mission of the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank as a faith-based nonprofit organization is to serve families and individuals in the Southwest Valley who are hungry, in need, and facing crisis. AFFCB has a heart for collaboration. Our annual events that we do each year are partnerships between local churches, businesses, and community members. We love to see how we can expand our reach by partnering with those businesses and churches in the area who have the same heart for missions that we do. The Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank would not exist without our amazing volunteers and donors. We're so grateful and appreciative to the many people over the last 23 years who have supported through their service of time or their donations, whether monetary or in kind. We have about 50 volunteers a week that come through, and they are the reason that we're able to keep our doors open. If you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank, I would encourage you to think about donating your time through volunteering, whether that's at our weekly programs or one of our annual events, or through donation. Both monetary and in-kind donations are welcome and accepted from all over the state of Arizona.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
We were experiencing some issues with our air conditioner not cooling our house properly in the summer heat, and so we called AC Doctors, and they were able to come out quickly and efficiently fix everything and be able to get our house up and running again. What made me the happiest about AC Doctors was the quality and efficiency of their techs as they came into my home. I felt they were very trustworthy and they did the job that they were needed to do and were able to get us back up and running. What exceeded my expectations about AC Doctors was the value of their work and their competitive price, along with having friendly and capable staff. If someone asked me if they should use AC Doctors, I would say absolutely. Their techs and their staff go above and beyond, and their prices are very competitive with anything else that we've seen. I trust AC Doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
Hi, my name is Shaylee Flanagan. Being a teenager isn't easy. Hearing fellow teens discuss current and relatable topics can help teens realize that they aren't alone. And believe me, feeling alone is common these days. I, for one, have been so isolated due to the quarantine. The Cube makes it easy for teens to feel connected to each other, even while keeping an acceptable social distance. We need to help spread the word about this important talk show. Becoming a sponsor for the Cube would make it possible for our show to connect with teens all over the country. Please consider sponsoring our show and advertising your company or product at the same time. Teens need this connection now more than ever. Thank you.
You can support the Cube by purchasing commercial spots during our show, become an individual sponsor, or even be a season title sponsor. You can make a big difference in the lives of our teens. Email advertising at ktsmaz.com or call 602-699-6271. Thank you. Welcome back to theCUBE here on ktsmaz.com. I had a question about something we were talking about earlier when we talked about that. You mentioned that children born on Election Day will never not know of a female vice president or an African-American president. Do you think that it's important that they learn about the past? Or what are your thoughts on what happened before?
Absolutely.
With regard to education?
I think the saying is escaping my mind, but if someone can remind me, it's something like,
if we don't teach the past, it's bound to repeat itself.
Yeah. Past will repeat itself. That's what I was thinking when you said that. We still need to be educated on what happened, or if not, it's just going to keep repeating itself over and over again.
And don't rely on the school system to educate you. Like, you need to do your own education too, because the school system is so biased in so many ways. And without educating yourself, like, more than what school teaches you, it's...
How do you educate yourself? What do you do?
Being curious, finding, or even looking at the news and then being like, oh, and being curious and looking at different articles and sharing it with friends and just, yeah.
You said a word that I wanted to bring up earlier, which was curious, and how it's so important to be curious. And I think that can go into everything, and just learning about culture is so important to kind of bridge a gap between us and the people. And that can be anything from sharing music to sharing food. And I think I just really love that. So yeah, be curious. Because I think also as people get older, and I wouldn't know because I'm 12 years old, but
What?
I think people tend to not be curious as they get older, but it takes the individual to want.
So what makes you think that?
Well, I feel like older people in my life, not all older people in my life, but I feel like most adults are not engaged, like don't want to learn more, or they don't want to. I'm being ageist.
I wanna talk about what you're saying because it interests me. I think the reason that sometimes people are shut down to be curious is because sometimes people aren't open to a question.
Mm-hmm.
Or also teaching. Like, I think even we do it. If somebody doesn't know something about a topic, we tend to push down their curiosity with the fact that they're not right or they're uneducated. And the beautiful thing about education is learning through your life. And you have to make mistakes to learn. And you have to not only be open to learning, but like help other people learn. And I think sometimes, especially adults, can be very like, you know,
like they've done their time.
Yeah, or they're even like.
You're making really good points, though.
There's something I really, it's a word that's not coming to my brain, or even like
they become complacent.
Yeah,
with
or
the knowledge that they have.
Even like you could take it for anything. Like let's say I really want to like learn the guitar and like I've never touched an instrument. My mom isn't like this at all, but she could be like, "Oh, well that's like really hard. You don't have time for that." And that crushed my curiosity. Or she doesn't accept the fact that I want.
Yeah, okay,
that's
okay.
more saying, that's
We made a
So that would be akin to learning.
Yeah.
So if your mom was telling you, "Oh, you can't play that. Oh, that's hard," then you're learning
to not ever again.
To not try.
Right, and it pushes it down.
Yeah.
And the same with if in your home, we're talking about other people, whether it's color, religion, size, clothes, sides of the street, whatever, they're learning. We're learning, the young folks are learning that. There's a in Into the Woods, Children Will Listen. It's a very poignant song. You should check it out. And it's very true. Children will listen and they'll learn. So what happens when discrimination and inequality are not addressed? Is it okay to be silent?
No, I think that even if you're being a bystander, like, have you guys heard that one saying where it's like the bystander is just as guilty as like the person who's actually doing it? I feel like it's kind of like that too. Like, I feel like you always need to like address situations. Like, for me personally, I was in a situation where I had my room, we're redoing it, and we need to get the floors redone really bad. This has been like a 2-year thing. I hope you guys understand. Like, my floors, they really need to get redone. So we had another contractor come in to look at the floors, and he was like, "Oh, like, I'm really glad that you guys found me because you guys don't want some Mexicans like hiding drugs under your floorboards." And my mom and I were like, and we just immediately were like, "Okay, like, I think that we're done here." Like, and then he was like, "Okay, well, give me a call if you need a price." My mom was like, "No, like, we don't." And then like we called like his manager and he ended up getting fired. So I just found that out when I brought up the story to my mom recently. But yeah, he did end up getting fired for that comment.
So you stood up. That's good.
Yeah, I think silence is deadly, and we have a voice, and if you don't use it, that's like Raymond said, history does repeat itself if the present isn't like talked about, and even the past.
A poem kind of comes to mind, and obviously don't quote me on this one, but it's like, first they came for this group of people, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't this person. And then they came for the Jews, but I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for the people who, like the gypsies or something like that. It was something to do with the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And it said, and then someone came for me, and no one was left to speak up. So it's so important to use a voice if you have one. And even though there wasn't somebody who might have been directly offended in your situation, you were still sticking up for them and still showing that that kind of behavior is unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. I think also people say that thing where they're like, treat others how you want to be treated. But I also think the thing that I want to talk about is like treat yourself also how you treat others. Because I think if my friend is like being discriminated against or a comment is made, I become way more like I need to speak on it because I don't want to be silent for that person because I care a lot about them. But sometimes the discriminations I face, like comments from homeschool or anything like that, sometimes for me personally, I realize that talking can sometimes, in my case with people, just be a waste of myself. And I can kind of realize that if I know that it's not true, then I can be okay with it for the things that I face. But definitely for other people, I definitely will say something because that's the people I care about. But maybe I need to learn to also say something for myself. But
Well, that's the other thing. You touched on a point I wanted to talk about, which was how do we talk about this with other people? How do we create a conversation that is appropriate and gets people to listen? Because I don't think people are going to listen to direct, like, that's not okay. You have to kind of get them to realize, I feel, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think, because people don't want to respond to anger, because if you get angry about something, they're not going to, but you have to get them to realize on their own that it's not okay. And it's so hard to, like, how do we do that, right?
Yeah, how do you take action against discrimination or inequality?
Well, I think that one thing that we've been kind of blessed with is that it's like kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier with like how much our generation has been evolving and how much like racism has been changing and how many changes have been made. And honestly, like how much more like accepting everything's been. So I think luckily, like kind of also back to what we were saying, like how like we've grown up like only knowing this, like knowing like that we had like a Black president, like that we have like a female vice president, like, you know, like that's all that we know. So I feel like it's really cool that like going forward, other generations are going to hopefully continue to progress in the right foot that we're stepping forward with our generation.
Yeah.
Okay. Then how do you handle a discriminatory comment? Like for you, can you give Mitra a suggestion that maybe, and the folks at home, if somebody is discriminating against you, how would you respond to that?
In my personal experience, when I've been discriminated against, be respectful, because like you said, people won't respond to anger. You do not need to necessarily be like super nice about it, but say that's inappropriate or that's not okay or something like that, and just be not like super stern, but still get your point across. Don't sugarcoat it. Let them know that it does not make you feel okay and it doesn't make you feel good, but don't do it in a way that's overly aggressive, or else you become just as bad as they are.
And Tristan had talked on a previous episode about it's not about what they're doing, it's about what it makes you feel. So talking about how it makes you feel and not telling them like that was wrong, saying like that hurts me because, or this makes me feel. I think you can apply that to that situation.
The I statements,
Yeah.
I feel.
And that the same for someone else.
Yeah.
Like if you experienced, what if you didn't know a person? What if you were out? What if you were in the mall and you happened to see Shaylee and her friends being pulled aside, but they're only talking to Shaylee and looking through her bag? How would you respond to that? Or would you?
It's hard because in that case, it's like an adult security guard, which I would probably be fearful of. But I think the best thing I could do as a kid is I would probably go up to Shaylee and talk with her and make sure she's okay, because that's the level that I can help. So I don't know if that's the right thing or the best thing, but
It's instinctual. You want to take care, you want to help her out. We're going to go to break right now, but we'll be right back on theCUBE here on KTSMAZ.com.
Hi, this is Doug with AC Doctors, and this is another testimonial of one of our satisfied customers.
So I'm a doctor kind of by profession myself, so I understand the importance of expertise and going to the right professional for the right service. AC doctors exceeded my expectations really just in their service. The technician showed me on his phone how things should work, showed me how things were not working well on my particular unit, and showed the corrections that he would make. They were able to keep my air conditioner unit running smoothly, and I know that here in Arizona that's really important. And so I would want my neighbors and friends to get similar service and similar running air conditioners smoothly and coolly, and AC doctors can provide that for them. I trust AC doctors, and so should you.
We want you to find out for yourselves. Give us a call or find us on our website at theacdoctors.com.
Welcome back to theCUBE here on KTSMAZ.com. Today we're talking about discrimination and inequality. So I have a question. What strides do you think we have to make to fix inequality? What can we do? What can you do? What can your generation do?
Well, I don't think that we're ever going to really be able to say that we fully fixed it. I feel like that's the overall goal. That's like that's the dream, is to have it ultimately fixed. But I think just with our history, like there will always be some part of the world that is discriminatory against another one, which is the sad truth. And hopefully we can change that. Hopefully we can look on the bright side and we can be the generation to really prove that statement wrong. But I think it's just one of those things that we do have to be aware about.
I think inclusive is the right word, but just making our world more inclusive. Like, we already got the first female vice president, like maybe working to a first female president, something like just making the way up the ladder. Like, we kind of already broke the barrier with just a female in the like presidency. But yeah, making that bigger.
Well, what specific steps can you take? What actions? What can you do? Just name some things like inclusiveness. You said maybe understanding someone who's different. What else?
I was just going to say maybe schools could teach more, because I know that we were saying how schools don't teach us that knowledge as much as they should. So maybe if we get school systems to devote more time to the really important topics so that we don't repeat history.
And I also kind of want to say, this might not make 100% sense, but I want to go into politics. I would like to be one day in the presidency if that's possible. But I think proving people wrong, you got to show them that I'm just as capable as anyone else may be. And just being able to show that you are capable and you are powerful and you have that voice will be just so beneficial into breaking down those boundaries and creating a more inclusive world.
I think that's a really good point, because I know everybody in the world has differences that can be discriminated, but all of us in this room have it. Take what you have and your differences and notice how you display them and how you treat other people for what they display.
Also, empowering and encouraging others.
Yes.
Is a big step too.
So if you were a person of color and you were experiencing discrimination or racism, what can you do? How do you need to own that information?
Well, I think it kind of plays into self-confidence and how you see yourself. I think if you see yourself and how you may be different looking, or if you just see your differences of people and you embrace them and you find them beautiful and you find them as a good thing that you're different instead of a bad thing that you're different, I think just changing that mindset would be really beneficial.
Over the years, I think I've grown to absolutely love my heritage and love that I am Mexican. I have that in me, and accepting the fact that I am Hispanic. And when I was younger, I didn't always want to be this color. I thought, well, the girls who are more white, I think they're prettier, they're better, because that's what I had been seeing. But slowly but surely, seeing all of these people and these role models who are coming in who are people of color, or who do have the differences, like we've all been saying, just that is so empowering. And as a person of color, I guess, just being able to be proud of the skin that I was born in and appreciate it because I was made this way and I love it, you know?
That's awesome.
I definitely like the way that you said that, but honestly, I feel like I'm opposite. When growing up, I didn't really know, or it wasn't like, I just didn't know that I was different. I was Black, mixed, and I feel like that it really didn't affect me in any way until I was 13, like I had said before. That's when my eyes were really opened, but I feel like I remember us saying how if we put a bunch of little kids in a room together, no matter what they looked like, size, hair color, race, anything, they wouldn't know. They'd just be like, oh, we're kids, you know? But that's pretty interesting that you brought up, like, when you were younger, that you did know about that you were different and that you wished or wanted to look like someone else. Because for me, it wasn't like that. I felt like I was whatever I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, even off of those two stories, we're all in it together, but we all have different stories and different emotions about things, and that's important to take into account and action.
Anybody else? So there are a lot of steps we can take. Acceptance, understanding, trying to learn about each other, accepting our differences. Do any of you feel you're any better than anybody else?
Nope. No.
So if you're rich, is a rich person better than a poor person?
No.
Is a white person better than a Black person?
No.
Is a man better than a woman?
No.
So as young ladies here, let's talk about that for a second. Do you feel that you're treated any differently because you're a woman or a young woman versus a guy, say?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Some in positive light and some in negative light.
Okay, so it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
Well, like it just in this past year, I've learned that girls our age, like they're afraid to go to their car alone or they're afraid to walk the street. Like I never would have thought that that's something that that drives me crazy that you guys have to think about that because that thought never crosses my mind. Like I can go on a walk at 5 a.m. and I don't go on walks at 5 a.m. I mean, like, I'm so sorry.
But you could if you wanted to.
Yeah,
that's
what I mean.
the
Like,
point.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's that. I just became aware of that, but you should talk about that because I'm not.
Well, we'll definitely have to keep making strides towards equality.
Yeah.
And now there's so much more that we have to discuss. We haven't really stepped into racism and what's the difference between stereotypes and racism and what racism means to all of you. So we'll reserve that for part 2. Do any of you have anything you'd like to leave us with before we go to break? Mm-hmm. All right, we'll be right back here on theCUBE on KTSMAZ.com.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me from here. Here. Or maybe even here.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
It can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down.
It doesn't matter how you say it.
You all right?
Everything's okay?
G?
You all right, girl?
Oh,
You cool?
you bugging dog.
Just show you're there for them.
Go on, Kelly. Seize the awkward.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Being a teenager in today's world can be incredibly difficult. From friend drama to family to relationships to school and more, teens are dealing with countless issues every day. That is where The Cube comes in. The Cube is a teenage talk show for, by, and about teens. On the show, we have a panel of teenagers, including myself, that talk about a range of different topics relevant to teens today. This show is super important as it is able to show fellow teens everywhere that they are not alone. I hope you will consider supporting our show so that we can continue to provide an outlet for teenagers to feel seen and heard. Please become a sponsor or advertiser today. Thank you.
You can support The Cube by purchasing commercial spots during our show, become an individual sponsor, or even be a season title sponsor. You can make a big difference in the lives of our teens. Email advertising at ktsmaz.com or call 602-699-6271. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today here on The Cube. We'll be back every Tuesday at 6 p.m. But don't worry, if you miss us on Tuesdays, you can see every episode on demand anytime, exclusively on ktsmaz.com. Remember, try to understand the other person's side of the cube. You may be surprised at what you'll learn. We'll see you next time on The Cube.